to us about Afghanistan. Is the drawdown going to be done in the next few days?
No. No, we're on track exactly as to where we expect it to be.
Are you worried that the Afghan government might fall?
I think they have the capacity to be able to sustain the government.
Sir, thought on Afghanistan.
I want to talk about happy things, man.
President Biden chafing after questions on the drawdown of troops from America's longest war. This week, after nearly 2 decades, 4 presidents, $2 trillion, and the loss of more than 2,300 American lives, the U.S. moved up the timeline to end its major military commitment to Afghanistan, now set for late August, and turned over Bagram Air Base to Afghan forces, a huge milestone, and for many, a worrisome one. Over the past 20 years, I have made countless trips to Afghanistan, and last week was the only reporter there as the commanding general made his last trip to Bagram to watch the final preparations for withdrawal. General Scott Miller was in Afghanistan at the beginning of the war and is here for the end, flying low over Bagram, where more than 30,000 troops were once housed, the fighter and attack jets now gone, the base all but abandoned. General Miller, who has spent 9 years of his life deployed as a special operations officer, never imagined he would oversee the withdrawal of America's troops.
As you watch this, it certainly is a flash of memories and reminders of coming through Afghanistan over the years.
The history on this base is staggering. Countless missions were launched from this airfield, and countless wounded were medevaced here. It was Bagram where Osama bin Laden's body was flown after the raid into Pakistan. I watched it all up close over these decades, from Bagram to remote outposts, the triumphs and the heartbreaking loss. John Campbell, always with the cards he carried to remember each soldier killed in battle.
And when you think about those soldiers?
I think about them every day.
General David Petraeus, after nearly a decade of war.
Your thoughts on the anniversary of 9/11, 9 years at war.
And taking off from this very base on an F-15 combat mission.
We are upside down over the mountains.
But after all these years, all these missions, the Taliban is once again gaining strength as Afghan forces surrender or are massacred through districts across the country. The majority of the districts that have been taken are many, many miles from here in Kabul. But the big question is, what happens here when all of the U.S. forces leave Afghanistan? We traveled to the outskirts of Kabul to the home of a Taliban elder, a senior leader when the Taliban was in charge of this country. The Taliban is taking over many districts across Afghanistan. Will they eventually come here to Kabul? There is no doubt, says the Taliban elder, and that is a clear concern for General Miller. What's happening right now, and how alarmed are you?
We should be concerned. The loss of terrain and the rapidity of that loss of terrain has to be concerning. One, because it's a war is physical, but it's also got a psychological or moral component to it. And hope actually matters, and morale actually matters. And so as you watch the Taliban moving across the country, what you don't want to have happen is that the people lose hope and they believe they now have a foregone conclusion presented to them.
And for those who work for the Americans, the fear is overwhelming.
You're hiding.
I'm hiding right down here.
Abdul will only use his first name, an interpreter and father of 3, living in fear of a Taliban resurgence.
If they take over of the Kabul, direct they will come and they will behead us or they will kill us.
The U.S. is trying to get the interpreters out of the country, but some Afghans are determined to stay.
This is the time to be here in Afghanistan, and Afghanistan needs us.
Camilla Siddiqui is a business owner and economic and women's activist.
A lot of people just died, and there is a lot of bomb blasting and suicide, and there is no safety anywhere, not in Kabul and not in any province of Afghanistan.
Though her husband and children are now in London, she is not leaving. For Scott Miller, the thought of Afghan partners fending for themselves is painful and personal. It has to be heartbreaking for you, leaving them behind and fearing what might come next.
I don't like leaving friends in need, and I know my friends are in need.
There will be U.S. economic and security assistance, but without the U.S. military, the general is still worried.
If you look at the security situation, it's not good. The Afghans have recognized it's not good. The Taliban are on the move. We're starting to create conditions here that won't look good for Afghanistan in the future if there's a push for a military takeover.
Senior military leaders had advised the president that a contingent of around 2,500 troops should remain in Afghanistan. Miller will not say what his advice was. Would you have liked to have seen a small force stay here?
Let me hold on that one.
But very much on his mind, what happened when all U.S. troops pulled out of Iraq and then ISIS moved in. I want to just go back to the Iraq. Do you think about Iraq when we're leaving here and what happened in Iraq when we left?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's on everybody's mind. It's again, these are judgments that we have to make balanced against our national interests.
Whatever happens here in the future, says the general, does not take away from the accomplishments of those who served, but says there are lessons that should be learned. How do you think this war will be remembered?
I would like us not to just turn our backs on this. I think there are tremendous lessons, and they're not all positives. And there's victories as well, so we can celebrate those. But good organizations really learn from those things that didn't go as well as they want to. An honest self-reflection. That's going to be important going forward.
Indeed it is. For more now on U.S. troop withdrawal, let's bring in someone who has spent 15 years reporting on Afghanistan, especially the plight of women there. Gail Zermak-Lamon, adjunct senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations and author of The Dressmaker of Karkhana. Good to see you, Gail. I have heard general after general, as you have, say, just give us a little more time. Politicians say it as well, and yet you cannot call this a successful effort, given what's going on with the Taliban. So when you look at it, why isn't Biden right just pulling out those troops?
Afghanistan has always been a story of dark clouds and green shoots. And they've lived right alongside each other. And what you saw depended on where you sat. And I think the moment now is not about the military piece. The moment now is about what is the political future, what's going to happen in terms of economic development and aid, and how do you keep people safe who have supported the United States for the past, 19 years.
General Miller told me he didn't think the Taliban had changed. We're negotiating with the Taliban right now, but he doesn't think they've really changed from 1996 to 2021. So how do you negotiate with them when they're taking over the country?
So Afghanistan 2021 is not Afghanistan 1996 when the Taliban swept Kabul. And Kabul is a very different place in a rapidly urbanizing country. Think about this. 2/3 of the country is 25 and under. They don't even remember the Taliban last time around. And the question is, how do you protect the gains made by young people who have fought every single day for a brighter future?
And I know you've been in communication with Afghan women and often are. What are you hearing? Senator Jean Shaheen says she wants some sort of law helping women over there. Can we really do that? How much influence do we really have at this point?
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. has leverage. First of all, it's the United States. There is diplomatic leverage. There has to be a push. There has to be a push with Ghani, and there has to be a push for a conversation that includes the discussion of what happens with women, right? That aid going forward in the future has to have some relevance to that. Secondly, think about what's happened. Herat University is 51% female, right? Most of the people applying for Herat University are women. You have this whole generation that it looks very different. Has the Taliban changed? Most people living under Taliban rule say no, it hasn't. But there's no question that it understands the environment it's coming back into is very different than the one it left when it left power. And while it might have technicals and technical vehicles, it doesn't have technocrats. And it knows it needs engineers, doctors, and all of that to govern. So yes, the U.S. has leverage.
Well, we hope they have a bright future, but very concerned still. Always great to talk to you again.
Great to be with you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.